is a welcome random surprise. Holly sent me this little headlight. It's actually kind of like a resto mod setup, which is exactly what the FC is all about. This is actually an LED headlight. But one thing I love about it is that it means way less power consumption.
Wow.
He sent me modern white, which is what I want. I want that modern. Yeah.
See, I knew.
Let's see what these look like right now, and then let's see what this looks like separate. Dad sent this to me for Christmas, and a very, very useful thing is that we can see how many amps are being used by the car just by putting it on the ground line. We'll see what number it gets at low beams, high beams, and off, and that's at what? Yep.
9.9.
Yep. Okay, so we'll wait till the motor's done.
12.
12. Okay.
12.8.
That's high beams.
14, 15 almost.
Okay. 3 extra amps for the high beams, first of all. And second of all, 12 amps isn't just the headlights. The car's powering other things on, so it's kind of hard to justify exactly that. But 3 amps for the high beams additional. Those headlights are using a lot of power. So we know, what was the first number? 12.9?
Yeah, 12.8.
And then 15. And then we'll just compare those two to these. Okay, there we are. Wow, I did not see that coming. All right, so we'll pull this one off. So we're talking 11.9. Take off one light. Wow, that's a lot of power used just for one light. So we went from 11.9
to 7.8.
7.9. Yeah, 7.9. So that's 4 amps. Okay, so let's see what one headlight swap does.
Damn, that's bright.
That's
Jesus. Oh wow, it's at 9.6.
So it went from 11.9 to 9.6. So we just dropped 2 amps.
And that's one headlight.
And that's one headlight. So we already saved 2 amps of power running through old wires.
Jeez, dude, that's really bright.
We haven't even gotten to the high beams.
I dig the color too.
Yeah, the color is beautiful, especially with this frosted white car. I was not expecting this to be this interesting of a video. And now I'm like, let's do this to all the cars. We're currently at only 5 amps. The whole car and that headlight going.
You okay there?
That was so bright. It was actually really painful. Right now we are running at only 7.1 amps. But 7.1 amps when it was what, 13? Because that high was 15.
I think it was 12 something, right? 12.
Yeah, it was 12 and a half. So yeah, more than 5 amps there. So but 15 was the high end. So let's see what both high beams do.
10.
And yeah, so it's a 5 amp reduction. 5 amp reduction to me is actually a lot, partially because I'm so obsessed with my alternator and getting that 14.7 volt consistency. So even with the headlights on, we're only dropping 10 amps at high beams. That's very impressive because we were at 15. Now, in the grand scheme of things, does that mean a lot? Honestly, yeah, it means a lot because I can reduce the amount of amperage used just to run the car safely. Now I can focus more on ignition or whatever else. Huge thanks to Holly for how beautiful this looks and how much less it takes on the system.
This right here is metal, stainless steel to be exact, 304. Right here we have our bellow, and we have our V-band, so that way it's removable, and that way the engine can reflect separately from the downpipe. I'm gonna go ahead and weld this. Remember, people, always back purge your wastegates, and every time you're doing a machine V-band flange, put them together when you're welding them so that way they don't warp. This is the setup that I had before. This was just a dump to atmosphere setup, and this guy went in there like that somewhat. And I wanted to recircuit in there one day, but just with the amount of room that's given. Oh well. I don't have enough room to also do that. Add this and then add a V-band. That's just physically not enough room. And then to also research, because I can't just do this into that small hole, because 1.5 and 1.5 equals the 2 1/4 circle. But like even this itself, this is 2 1/4. There's not enough room, so I'm gonna have to do them individually, which kind of sucks. It's just gonna get busy in here, but it would be the best for everything. So I come up with these. You guys have V-bands on them, and then also have my bellows, so that way it's easier to install, and then the engine can flex separately from the downpipe. So that guy's gonna go into there just like that. And this guy's gonna go in here just like that. So I'm gonna have both those guys in there, and it's just gonna be a separate V-band for them. Like I said, just gonna get busy, but both wastegates will have proper flow, and everything will be just fine. So now I just gotta finish welding up these guys, which I welded them in there so that way they didn't move or flex. Just gotta drill out my holes, and we'll be bitching. I like to weld the tube onto the tube, then I like to cut the hole out so that way it's perfect every single time. You're not trying to match it up when you're welding it. Sometimes you don't fit it all the way perfect, but that's just personal preference. You guys do you, but this makes it a lot easier. So you just kind of come in through here with the hole saw. If you have the right size hole saw for it, most of the time you do, you just get the Milwaukee kit. It's pretty badass. This size fits in here perfectly, and if I was able to hole saw this all the way out, this would have been 99% of the way done. But unfortunately, this size is different from this size, so I couldn't get it all the way through. So I just went one size down, and I just have to port it out. No biggie. That's the last piece, and this thing is all together. Like I said, just got really busy having everything together. It's a pain in the ass to line up, but everything is in there now, and everything is looking solid. Now Rob has even more badass wastegate setup to beat the RX-8 with, sadly. Oh. Ooh, look. My boy's burning clean. Bitchin', this is brand new.
We were beating the shit out of this car. That's amazing. And with the water cooling on this one, I'm super happy because we were thrashing the shit out of the exhaust. Like the whole entire exhaust is glowing. I've never had a car where this entire thing is heat treated as if it's a runner on an exhaust. That's amazing. It shows you how much heat the turbo was taking, and then the water cooling system was keeping that turbo in safe operating parameters. I'm impressed with that turbo and that car. With this turbo doing what it did at only 15 PSI, this is a testament to how quality those turbos are, because it's not even using the right exhaust housing. We have a 1.2 exhaust housing is meant to flow all the way up to the 600 horsepower range. We got in the 1.0, so that turbo is going to spool even harder at the lower RPMs, which means I can stay in the third gear and have boost much lower now. Excellent, very exciting, small difference. There we are. That is a baby compared to the other one. We can look at the logs and I'll compare it apples to apples to show you guys. If there's boost response, if there's more air flowing at certain points. This is a 106, and it already looks smaller than the 120 that's on there now. And so we'll swap them over and see how much that affects this turbine wheel and how much quicker it, or not quicker. I mean, we'll keep the data telling the story, how much quicker this will help the turbo spool.
Oh, look at that, pretty color actually.
Yeah, that's...
I love stainless when it gets hot because it gives you all these weird like rainbow colors, and this is like a different than what you normally could like. They're like greenish. You see that?
Yeah.
I've never actually seen that, but
You'll see that there's a bit of exhaust leakage here, and that's because after all those hot sessions, the 20 minutes on, hour off, 20 minutes back on, and by the third one,
this is all that's left.
No way!
That's all that's left.
Wait, was that sending it through the turbo?
It melted it. That's
Oh shit. Heating and cooling of the whole thing is farther than we've ever pushed. Even though we make more horsepower on all the other cars, sustained heat.
have been the two top bolts that got loose then.
Yeah, so bolts got loose just from, expansion and contraction. They were close. They were.
These are the 10.9 bolts. They're not cheap bolts.
Yeah. Incredible.
We're gonna see what we can do to switch up the combo, because T4 flange, I'm sure all rotary owners know, they always leak. They always have a gasket failure like that. I've seen it so many times. The best luck I've had is to weld the stud on the backside and to use locking nuts Rob actually said something about, was it Nordlock?
Yeah, Nordlock.
Nordlock washers are badass, so we're gonna see if we can get some of those so that way this never happens again, hopefully. This thing burnt to a crisp, the top side, but we actually lost the bolt that went up here. So people go with studs, people go with Inconel nuts, people go with locking nuts. So like this is just a flange nut. This actually doesn't have the locking on it. So this backside over here actually helps lock. This is actually a C-locking nut. You can see right here it's kind of squeezed in, so that way when the thread comes in, it squeezes it really tight, makes it hard for it to back off. But we have the ultimate solution. 12.5 grade all thread. This guy's just gonna go straight into here. I'm gonna weld it to the manifold on the backside, that way this thread cannot back out. And then we have this Nordlock, it's pretty badass, which Rob recommended. And we have this nut, which is anti-vibration. So when it gets to here, spines are cut so that way it's actually more in the thread and pretty easy. And then once you get to that part, it's tough because that part is closed in. So you have to actually tighten it down, which locks onto the thread. And so with that, and this locking down into the material, we should actually never have another failure.
I also want to add that it wasn't me who came up with the Nordlocking washers. That was you guys. You guys have been hounding us in a good way that check those out, check those out. And while they are slightly more expensive, or in some cases extremely more expensive, the mechanic element of it where it locks internally one way and then grips the other way, it's a very obvious, kind of like a torture device for the bolt. You kind of screwed yourself, you're in, you're stuck. That is exactly what we want for this circumstance.
You put the little Nordlock washer, put your badass nut. These nuts are actually pretty badass because they're even super low pro. So I was actually excited with these.
Is this what they use on the turbo V-bands too? This style?
That style, yeah. Right there you feel like some resistance on it because it's grabbing the stud. I'm really confident in this setup. I'm very OCD. I like to go opposite on literally anything that I tighten. This is a hard one over here because normally you have a turbo right here, so it's hard to get like a bolt or a nut into there. So like this being this is
Badass.
yeah.
Just this one's already locked on.
Mm-hmm.
Did they say how much?
I say yes.
I'm not going to do that. I'm going to look that up. What's very important is to make sure that you do what Nordlock wants you to do, because these are very particular. And so I went down here to M10 bolts, and you can see that they want 62 Newton meters of force, which is going to be like 50 foot-pounds of torque or something like that. So I want to make sure that we slightly exceed that so it gets right to there, but not over torque, because I didn't want to just manually torque that. So it's very important to me that we torque them properly. This torque wrench actually does have both foot-pounds and Newton meters, and so 62, so then we're going to use these little things, they're called crow's feet, but it's kind of sick for situations where we can't put the torque wrench on top of it. We can get close. So you want it pretty straight, otherwise you're going to get weird results if you start getting goofy.
Okay, that one's good. Cool beans. That's not going anywhere. There she goes in. We're praying for the last time ever. And for these, I'm gonna use the C-lock nuts, so that way they lock and they stay on there forever too, as well.
Finally, time to fire this little guy back up, and now we have a couple small improvements to it that should make an actual difference. We shrunk down the exhaust housing, so we should get even more turbo response. I'm curious to see that, but I also want to make sure I can start it quicker.
Got my eardrums blown out by the 4-motor, and now it's like this little baby thing. It's a huge difference.
Real quick, first little, like, not even fully warmed up pull around here, just literally pulling the car around. You're not accelerating. I'm already seeing that I need about 10 to 15% more fuel between 2,000 to 3,000 RPM, which means that the turbo is coming online sooner. an even more streetable environment. So I think we've got a major win on shrinking that exhaust housing, which is what we ideally wanted to begin with, but we had problems with the first one. I'm gonna let it warm up all the way, and there's construction and weird stuff going on, so we're not gonna go really hard, but I do wanna see if I get that good giggly shit-eating grin that, yeah, this turbo's even hard. Sorry guys, I messed up my sentence. I saw him starting to chuckle. You know what I mean. Everybody else is working, so again, I'm not gonna really beat on the car, but I'm getting interesting results. The turbo is definitely spooling quicker, but something's causing it to go more lean one time, more rich the other time. I got some diagnosing to do and just really sitting down and do a lot of tuning. I need to get it on a dyno. I really need to get it on a dyno. I have too many variables going on all at once.
Seem more
Okay, that
saucy.
seems so much better. I realized I forgot this car's flex fuel. There's a lot of other things going on all at once. Throwing my brain off. I've got adjustments going on all over the place. So it capped out at 8 psi as the wastegate springs did before, but they're definitely coming on sooner. It's very much coming on sooner. While this dyno is most likely going to be our lowest horsepower dyno yet, I would argue that it is one of the most important dyno sessions ever, because the same core facts, the same core approach to it is all here. What I'm going to do though is try to max out the stock intercooler, which is sitting on top of the engine, heat soaking, all that. See when does that start to choke. That's going to give me really good data, because just like all other cars, there's always a limit. There's always something causing a limit. And the other thing is to try and make a car with this little horsepower make a lot of horsepower, like have a lot of reaction time, have all the wild things that you want to do. That's more impressive to me than making 1,000 horsepower on the 4-rotor. Not making 1,000 horsepower on the 4-rotor is absolutely amazing. Making this car sing is actually much harder. How far did I get with the street tune? Really, you got so many variables going on. It's hard to like simplify and focus on that. So we're gonna do a dyno pull of just what it was, how I have it set right now, and then give me a couple rounds, clean it up a little bit, test some things, and then go and do a full proper dyno tune at the same boost and see how much more power we make. It feels like driving a dyno. I'm absolutely drenched in sweat, but that's okay because this is beautiful. We are near Lucky 7, and I cannot be more thankful because the car's fine. I'm the one that's overheating. Oil temps and engine temps stay 175 Fahrenheit until they don't, but it's pretty good. I have a fan on both of them. Each, and they both turn on when the engine temp hits 180. I have a really weird small surge tank issue, and it's not the surge tank, it's not Fuel Labs thing. It's maybe my wiring. But when I'm lugging the car and gun it triggers the low fuel pressure. And it might even be the fuel pressure sensor itself. So I can't gun it yet. This looks a little familiar. We've arrived. Shot of all the rotaries right there. Oh. So one of the coolest things about coming here to Lucky 7 is that if we really need any part, it's kind of a pick your own part sort of situation. I don't know whose car that is, but that's the Series 5 front end. For those of you guys who aren't familiar with FCs, that like double front ram air thing, that's a Series 5 front bumper through and through. It's neat to see that I've got kind of a twin. It looks a little bit wide-bodied though, or something.
Cool. Look at that. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, he's got the wording on his, and he's got all of his power steering setup. This is the stock crank angle sensor, and ours is here, so I have to do some machine work. We'll distract Frizz, and we'll take all of this.
Oh, he has AC too. Wow.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous. So I figured out a couple of really small dumb issues that I had on my own. I had the poor fuel system working backwards, and so it was running high. The noise that you hear is actually at full until I would go into power and it would drop to the low mode. Oh, it wasn't the low mode that was killing the car, it was the drop. My settings were all set up for a wastegate. Sounds weird, but it's a generic output and I'd used it for different things. We're ready to get the dyno aligned with the numbers on this thing. Just see what the street power made with my current tune. What I'm gonna do first, normally I like check it more, but since we've already raced the car, I wanna see what that first tune is. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. It's about 7 PSI, I think. We'll see what she does.
Now that's the difference between 2 rotors, 3 rotors, and 4 rotors. 2 rotors like seemed forever. That was only up to 7,500. I mean, that happens in like half the time for the 4 rotors like that.
That's how it was tuned for the track. You can see all of the jagged edges, everything. I wanted to show you guys a baseline. It sounded kind of rough. I also noticed that we never normally do pulls on this car in 4th gear. We're always in 2nd and 3rd. Ignition air temperature, IAT or manifold air temperatures went up to 195. Wow. The fuel was way too rich. It was way too rich. It was starting to break up at about 3,000 RPM, so we're gonna gain a lot of power just from removing fuel and not having the poor engine breaking up as much. I got some tuning to do. Right here shows you the benefits of having a dyno as a tool. My tune is much smoother, the temperatures are so much better, the ignition, everything's so much better now just because I was able to isolate it on the dyno. And look at this, same exact car, same smoothing, all that other sort of shit, but you can see that the car is much more consistent as we go. Instead of all these weird dips from getting rich or ignition breakups, much smoother. You can see it is getting a little rich down here, but it's also choking. It is absolutely choking. We're not going to be running it over 8,000 RPM, sadly. I'm going to work on some more things. We gained 35 horsepower, but really in the mid-range where we'd be racing at, I gained closer to 50 horsepower. Importantly to me, this is where some of my pulls started. There's the 25 to 30 horsepower right there as well. So I'm very happy with this. But what I'm going to try to do is, you see how the blue torque line starts to drop off? That's because boost and everything's starting to drop off with back pressure and whatever. So I'm going to play with the boost controller to try and get this to be a straight line, so my power is a straight slope, well, straight, you know, angled line as well. Okay, so now what I'm going to try doing is raising the boost, which sounds counterintuitive, but I need to test the boost control system. So currently I'm going to try a single target, get to 14 PSI, which it starts to trail off, so I'm hoping I can see a nice straight boost curve on this pull. We'll see.
That's a direct result of the boost, right?
That's their default boost setting.
So that's the, you see the boost go up and down, and you see the actual result.
Got
but
it.
you're way higher.
you saw like say PFI Speed's video or anybody else really talking about the E-Gate, which is new technology, let me show you something that I wouldn't say is the E-Gate's problem. This is Fuel Tech's boost control. Now I love Fuel Tech, and it's a phenomenal company, go Brazil, but the boost control is something that needs to be improved on. So this is not an E-Gate. This is a 2 single wastegates. They're not overflowing, nothing. But the problem is that they're expecting a lot of people, even my level or lower, to know PID controlling. And honestly, I think that's way too over the top. So when you set this up by default, because it doesn't have a default configuration, it just goes all over the place. You overboost, underboost, overboost, underboost. And so I wanted to show you that it's not the E-Gate having all these problems. It's really the only way of controlling it at the moment. So what I would love if this boost control, Fuel Tech's boost control could have, hey, my wastegate spring is 9 PSI, therefore expect this, not react. It's always reacting instead of being proactive. And so that's my biggest gripe with the software, and I just want to show you that there's no E-Gate on this car, and it's doing the exact same thing. This is getting hilarious. Now I've realized that Fuel Tech does things a little differently, and it is not what an average tuner or average person just getting into cars would expect. They're asking you to tune the wastegate pressure, which you're thinking, okay, we have wastegate boost pressure. No, wastegate the top of the pressure that's fighting against the spring. It's difficult. There's not enough documentation at all. So, interesting, you guys. I would love if you had way more documentation on your boost control, because it doesn't explain any of this sort of stuff. And so I have the luxury of being able to test this over and over again, but very painful, very painful. Boost control is something from a street car perspective that I know Fuel Tech's is aware of. They know they keep releasing more updates, but this is definitely something that's very difficult for me. We've very painfully learned how to use the boost controller system. When it says wastegate pressure, it is not talking about boost pressure whatsoever. You say, hey, I want 10 pounds of boost, you don't know what you're gonna get if you put 10 in there, because 10 is what the wastegate is gonna see on the top of it. So you could almost say it's times the spring, so it'd be 10 plus the spring, but then you got back pressure. It's just a really weird way of doing it. I get it, I'm allowed to say I don't like it. You can see already, I figured the system out so it's not so squiggly, and I'm finally making more power, but my intake temps finally exceeded 200 and something degrees. So we're pretty much maxing out the stock mount intercooler at this point safely. So we're at what, 350 horsepower. It would keep climbing a little bit, but that's just about 20 PSI, and I'm just done there. I really want to gut the whole intake manifold to make it much more efficient for all this, but that's not the point of this car, so it hurts my soul a little bit. But it's neat to see a boost coming on much cleaner. The car can't utilize everything that the G40 has to offer. The poor G40 is sitting there trying to do its best. The car's not optimized for it. So that's a 600 horsepower turbo, to put it in perspective. That said, this thing's gonna be a lot more power on the street, and I think I can beat Isaiah. At the end of the day, we got 3 major things accomplished. One is that we really just dialed this car in. It is not impressive by any stretch of the imagination. I love it. This isn't our normal build where we're using the best, our proven formula, the stuff that works clearly. There's a lot of restrictions, there's a lot of heat being generated. It's just not the ideal things, but it's proving that you can still use them, but you have to see the difference between them. I can tell you for sure, the stock throttle body, the stock intake manifold, the stock intercooler, all those pipes are very small between those things, and there's a massive restriction there. So the turbo is just not capable of doing its best work. But what I do want to show you though is that all of that is cool. I want to point out though that these are horribly colored, but the green line is what I came in here with. And the yellow line is the same thing, just wastegate spring, much smoother, cleaner, and then the red line is now really pushing it harder and learning more about it. A lot of things I could keep tuning and all that, but it's nice to see, even with all the restrictions at 4,000 RPM, that turbo really wants to just make all that power. This is a very manual ECU, and there's good and bad to that. The 3-rotor runs the same ECU. It's just way too much calibration. This is way too much work to just get the car calibrated. I love Fuel Tech. I love supporting them. This part is very difficult. It's a very difficult part. Boost control and Fuel Tech, we've had a lot of challenges with. I feel like I know it more, and what I'll probably do is I'll probably make a video specifically on that specific technical topic, because there's nothing. There's one guy, Evan something or other, that wants to charge you for watching him for more than 30 seconds or some bullshit like that, and there's nothing from Fuel Tech. It's just showing you the options. This is truly an example of using the dyno as a tool. It's not like we were ever going to make 600. We knew that coming into this, but when we started at 300, we got to 350 in all the same range, so we really cleaned it up a lot, gained that same 50 foot-pounds of torque, so she'll be even faster, but we're now capped.